Yeah, we were very excited about it. It's our first hotel. Will be our first hotel outside the U.S. And it's a big property for us. 270 rooms, 5 food and beverage venues between the ground floor, and we'll do a restaurant on the top floor. So if you know the project, it's an old office building that we bid on with other bidders who I think wanted to take that property down, and we saw it as beautiful architecture. We love that kind of brutalist architecture. So it will have that base building, and then we've built on 3 stories above it of a new build, and then the restaurant will be up there and some additional rooms. So yeah, that's hopefully by the end of the year, early next year, and a lot of our focus now of the whole team in New York and the team we've set up here is getting that open and doing it right. This is very important for us, right? This is our entry into a whole new market, and from here we want to kind of continue to push out east into the continent and hit some other cities. So it's extremely important we get this right and we open with a bang, and we think we will. I mean, I've toured the property several times over the last month. It's looking great. I think it is going to be different for the market and hopefully meet everybody's expectations about what standard will be in the UK. This will be a flagship for us, so I think it's most comparable to what we have in New York City at the High Line, which, if you're familiar with that, is a true flagship. And it's sort of, we call it a second generation standard, because when the company started in the late 90s, when this whole lifestyle segment was in its infancy, right? The properties were they were almost more limited service. That the properties we opened in Los Angeles were conversions, much lower budgets, and it was kind of testing this market to see how it was going to work, because at the time people weren't sure how it was going to go. That was first generation, and those properties look different than what we have in New York, where New York it is the High Line, it's a comprehensive experience, for lack of a better word, where there's multiple levels of different price points on the food and beverage, and the entire property is activated from the roof down to the ground floor, where we have a beer garden for for certain people's tastes. It's beer and it's light food and it's a low price point, and then you have the boom boom room at the top of the standard, which is more of a higher end kind of cocktail lounge. And so the idea is a guest can stay on property, from morning to evening and have different experiences, and we keep them there at the property. So London is very much built out of that model in terms of the size of the property and the scale of the food and beverage, multiple venues at different price points and different kind of feel of the spaces. Yeah, it's a good question. We think about that a lot. I think it's, all these brands that you have to move beyond kind of what the original roots were and develop and change as the market changes. And our market is changing, very rapidly, I think. And so we will take all the good elements of what the brand represents. And some of that is design related, but a lot of it isn't, right? I mean, design nowadays, anybody can do good design. There's great designers all over, and you're seeing it in property after property, particularly in lifestyle segment. But it's got to go beyond design. And really, when it goes beyond design, it's about culture. It's about this feeling of authenticity and about some kind of deep soul. And you can't just create that out of a box. And so that's what we don't cling to it, but we hold it dearly, because we've spent 20 years developing this culture. And so what's important is that the properties don't necessarily feel from a design perspective the same, and there's certain elements, but we want to make them unique. But what's the same is this thread of the culture and this feeling about when you go to the property in London, you're gonna have this sense that, okay, I'm picking up something like I do when I'm in Los Angeles or Miami or New York. And that takes time to kind of infuse into the property, and that's why we have a lot of people right now working on that, in addition to just getting the physical product up ready for opening. So we want to, like I was talking about before, is the sequencing is important to us, meaning that let's get a few more flagships open in Europe before we start branching off into other markets that we think are exciting but maybe premature for us to go to. So when we look at that flagship model, the cities really are Milan, Paris, and Berlin, which we've always focused on. they're cultural hubs. There's density there. There's enough business demand that we can make the hotels profitable and make them succeed. And then from there, kind of, if you will, like a hub and spoke type arrangement.